Hello. As I said in my video playing Bond's Mystery Maze, there are more discs in storage. Some of them are labelled, others weren't. Some were songs and other stuff, etc. But I'm going to take a detour from playing the maze game. There are still a lot of CDs for me to look through. When I looked through the collection to see what CDs had in them, I found that one of the CDs was a game. Another game about those characters. The ones from the restaurant my grandpa worked at. The game is titled Having Fun with Bon and the Showstoppers. I could barely find anything on the internet about this game. I think I may be the only person who has this. So, I will play the game to see if it's a similar case to the previous ones. And if the same thing is going to happen like the last time I played these games,
What is going on, Walten Files fans, and in today's video we are exploring the cyberfun tech game entitled Having Fun with Bon and the Showstoppers. A game that was released in 1997 by Cyberfun Tech. However, this game has some shocking secrets that are sure to give you a scare. This Walten Files ARG was created by Windybro and entitled the exact same as the Walten Files Having Fun with Bon and the Showstoppers 1997. The video begins like a typical ARG, as we dive into someone restoring this CD that contains the game within it. We are introduced to the typical menu you would see on one of these games, as Bon the Rabbit shows up and introduces us and gives us the main instructions of the game.
Well, would you look at what we've got here? I'm delighted you could visit us today. Welcome to the town of Firmington, home of Bon's Burgers. There's lots and lots of fun to be had here. Say, why don't you follow me into the restaurant?
This game resembles something similar to that of episode 3 of Bunny Farm, as we play multiple minigames which contain stories hidden away from the chaos of the real world, hidden beneath the cracks of a faulty video game. And that is what this is all about. Uncovering the truth behind Bon's Burgers. And this ARG personifies that, as we eventually get into our first minigame involving Holly the Horse and Pete the Hippo, as we dive into the restaurant of Bon's Burgers. However, this game is something of peculiar nature. This game contains some peculiar nature, as we can transport to different levels and different locations around this game. For example, we have Bon's Burgers and then Pete the Hippo's farm. However, we first delve into the level of Bon's Burgers. As we enter, we see some interesting sights. As we first enter the entrance of the location, we see photos we can interact with, doors we can go through, and locations that have some deep secrets. Eventually, we make our way to Pete the Hippo's farm and come into contact with Holly the Horse.
Hey
Hey there, friend. I see you've come to help at the farm, huh? Well, Pete's out today and I need some help with a few of his relatives. Why don't you come follow me into the hippo house?
As we enter the hippo house, we see something we've seen before in Bunny Farm. However, this has its own peculiar nature, as each door contains some eyeballs, more than likely the relatives of Pete the hippo. However, with more exploring, we can talk to Holly the horse, and getting more of the story contained within this game. We involve our first minigame, as we enter the projection room, as we sit below the projector as different animals appear on screen. Our job is to match the animal to the animal's name below. Upon beating each minigame in this game, we receive a token. However, as of right now, we have no idea where this can be used, as this token has still no place in the story as of yet. Upon beating Holly's minigame, we then exit the hippo house and interact with Pete the hippo himself, as he invites us to help with one more minigame, as we teleport to a different location entitled The Garden, which contains a special character which we all know and love, Shaw the sheep.
Hi there. Didn't expect to see anyone here today. I was just picking some flowers to donate to the local schoolhouse's garden. I have to admit it is a pretty dry day today. You know what? I have an idea. Why don't we play a quick game of hide and seek? That was my favorite game to play when I was a little girl.
As resembling her minigame in Bunny Farm, her minigame is simple: hide and seek. However, upon doing this minigame a few times, interesting things begin to occur. We have 3 levels to complete. One that you've just seen, one in a foggy landscape, and lastly, one in a forest that scarily resembles the iconic scene from Bunny Farm. However, what most ARGs seem to contain is that once you beat a minigame, there's only one thing that needs to happen, and a question that needs to be answered. What happens if you fail? What happens if you replay? And what happens if the story is altered? And that is a question that you get the answer to. At first, everything seems normal. Shah may be in a different place than previous, but as of right now, it seems similar. However, sudden glitches begin to occur, as for some reason, the foggy landscaped area is nowhere to be seen, as we're transported straight to the forest level with an increasing difference. The background is now blue. Something has changed. Something has altered, and it just doesn't feel right, especially when we don't even find Shah in the minigame to begin with. The question lingers of where she even is. It seems we had beaten the game, as the credits roll, but something is lingering. What did we just witness? What just happened? And is there something more? And, quite frankly, yes there is. As we begin to do more digging, and digging, and digging, as the game abruptly ended upon one simple discovery. And that was the altercation between Rosemary Walten and Bond's Burgers.
In some aspects, our reality is like a workshop for dreams. Our dreams can be achieved through the way of manifestation. Everything we create is our dreams being pulled from our minds and manifested into reality. Art is the ultimate dream. A way to visualize what goes on in our dreams. A way to make the impossible possible. We use our minds and hands to form new realities. And that is why art is the ultimate dream. 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 That is what
the dream that lives forever.
Build it in your mind. Or better yet, use your hands. It's good to use your hands. Use your hands or be obsolete.
What we had just seen and what we had just witnessed was the death of Rosemary Walten, the wife of the missing Jack Walten, the mother of Sophie, Ed, and Molly Walten, the artist behind Bond's Burgers, the one behind all the cartoons, all the posters, all the drawings, stuffed away in the back room, withering away in the Shaw animatronic suit. What we had witnessed was the gruesome demise of Mrs. Walten, how she was taken advantage of and told to be followed. But the question lingers of who done this to her. What makes it obvious was the blue rabbit, as we then are shown a circle in a white liminal space, as we get images of Bond's Burgers until the Bond animatronic rabbit fills the scene. We see him contained into a back room. As frame by frame we get still images until we get an eyeball staring back at us, as once again we transition away from this white background as the game normally would, as it fades to black, until once again that white background fills the frame. Black dotted outlines are something to note in this shot as we begin to transport ourselves into a different space as we meet Bond and we witness the true nature and true horror of what event occurred.
Hello, my Rose. I apologize greatly for what I did to you. It was for a greater purpose. I assure you, it will be better here. Now we exist in a space outside of time, on the other side of time. We are in Wonderland. My Rose, I have kept my eyes on you, and I know you well, especially of your occupation. You are a creator. You use your hands to create works of art, beautiful works of art. I use my hands as well. I am a creator myself, and creation is what makes a creator what they are. It is fulfilling. However, it seems I cannot say the same for you. I feel a deep and true sorrow within your very being. A sorrow that has been consuming you slowly, like an insect entangled in an arachnid's web. But I can help you. I can reshape you. I will make you perfect. I will make you new. And I will take all of your troubles away, my Rose. All you need to do is follow me to the garden.
Rosemary Walten was transported into an alternate reality, into a new stage of life, a rebirth, if you will. We then transition to Bond's Burgers, as we hear a voice upon the speakers talking about a situation that occurred at the restaurant. This is presumed to be Chris Easteryear, an employee at Bond's Burgers. stating the fact that a woman's screams were heard from the residents around the area, presumed to be inside the location, stating that the police could find no evidence, couldn't find any reason for the company to be at fault. However, regardless of the situation not being at fault of Bunny Smiles Incorporated, they've decided to shut their doors for the foreseeable future. He goes on to apologize to the family and friends and children that may have witnessed or heard the events that occurred that night, as simply a photo zooms into the frame. Chris and Rosemary are in this photo, as the Bond animatronic figure looms beneath, as the photo just begins to widen and widen and zoom closer and closer until eventually filling the frame, until Chris's speech is done. But we see locations unwitnessed as of yet, places and scenes that we are still yet to explore. This game has more than what we ever could have imagined. This is not just your typical run-of-the-mill game. There's something hidden beneath, and it's our job to find it. However, that is all this one has to offer us, as part 1 begins to close, but something is hidden in plain sight.
Our doors will remain closed until we can ensure an incident like this doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Rosemary Walten's screams pierce our ears as part 1 of this ARG series comes to a close.
I don't know what to do. That creature I saw talking to the lady, Rose, that thing must have taken over the character suit. It killed her and brought her to that place. I think my grandpa helped cover up Rose's murder. I think he saw it happen. I think they knew each other too. I don't know why he did it. I don't know. I don't know who or what are in these games. I don't know how many are in them. I don't know what they want, or if they want to hurt me. I don't know. I'm gonna take a break from making videos. I'll upload again when I can. Goodbye.
The first episode in Windy Bros series really does show the true nature and horror behind the story. However, the story was completely unfinished, and it required another episode. And so a while passed until eventually part 2 was revealed. And part 2 shows us stuff that we could never imagine, as we see the true nature and true storytelling of this story. This ARG really put into full effect as we dive deeper into this game, as once again we are put into the shoes of our character who retrieves another tape.
Hello. I had a dream a month ago. I was walking through snow. There was only snow. I wasn't moving my own legs. It felt like someone was controlling me, forcing me to walk. It felt like I was a passenger in my own body, and I was alone. But then I heard someone speak. I couldn't understand what they were saying, but the way their voice sounded scared me. And then, in the corner of my eye, I saw someone walking in front of me. But then I woke up. I will explain this at the end of the video.
We continue the game as if nothing has happened, as we enter a new location that we haven't seen before, entitled the Pango Lab, which we encounter an igloo. Upon entering, we meet two characters, one that very heavily resembles TVA, and then a completely new character. We are introduced to this penguin character, as he has informed us that there's a glitch going on. We're supposed to help him in developing his computer program for artificial intelligence, entitled Dial, D1AL, Dial. However, he's encountered some issues, as Dial has connected themselves to the power grid of his lab. However, he didn't give them the proper authority to do so, so therefore our job is to help him fix this problem with Dial. The minigame involves us going around this maze-like map. Our job is to free ourselves from Dial's control. However, once we exit this maze, we are greeted with Dial, as a massive congratulations sign appears on screen, but Dial themselves is not very happy. We get a scene in this game that contains comedy, a light turn in comparison to the previous minigame, as the penguin proceeds to blow his computer up.
I installed a failsafe in case you would do this. It's called blowing up the computer.
Are you insane?
No, my name is Professor Penguin.
You can't do this. I'll be back. No.
Upon beating this penguin's minigame, we once again retrieve a token. However, our next mission is within the walls of the Bonsberger location. As we enter the dining area, as we see the full-fledged look of the Bonsberger's location, and are greeted by a fellow character. We eventually come into contact with Billy the Clown. We walk around a little bit before we actually interact with Billy, and we see multiple paintings on the wall. But for some reason, not every character is here yet. The aim of this game seems to me that when we complete each minigame, their character's poster appears on the wall. We've completed Shaw's, Holly's, and also Professor Penguin's minigames. Therefore, we still must have Boozoo, Billy, Pete the Hippo, and Banny. However, these photos play an important role in the future, as we eventually come into contact with Billy the Clown, as we once again have to play another minigame.
Howdy, the name's Billy, but my friends call me Bill. Wanna play a game? Follow me!
We are transported to a room that most Walten Falls fanatics will recognize as the poker room. The image on the right hand side of the wall in the frame is a very important image in terms of the Find Jack Walten ARG, the mainline ARG of the Walten files. However, our minigame with Billy is simple. It is simply just match the cards. We are simply just playing a game of Snap. We must match each cards together, and that is simply all we must do to complete this minigame.
Thanks for playing, buddy. As a reward, take one of these tokens. If you want to play again, feel free to visit me anytime. I'm always ready to play another round. By the way, you may or may not have noticed, but in the lobby, each time you complete someone's game, a picture of them will appear. Just something I thought I'd tell you. See you next time.
Upon beating Billy's minigame, we once again visit the photos on the wall. As predicted, once we complete Billy's minigame, his photo now appears on the wall. However, upon interacting with this photo, something happens. Something weird. Something is hidden within this photo of Billy the Clown. Something hidden, once again, in plain sight. As once we repeatedly click on this photo, this happens.
Friends call me Bill. Howdy, the name's Billy. Howdy, the name's Billy. Howdy, the name's Billy. Howdy, the name. Howdy, howdy, the name's Billy. Howdy, the name's Billy. Howdy, the name's Billy. Howdy, 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 the name's howdy, the name. Ashley. Ashley. Ashley.
As you can see, a hidden YouTube link pops up on screen in the subtitles. However, that is the first of many, as this is Ashley's hidden video. All you have to do is enter the link and press play.
As if waking suddenly, was it
It's Ashley, obviously.
or just a dream? Where is she? Where is she?
Wait a minute.
Was she really here today? Or was I just drifting back suddenly? Drifting back just suddenly.
I don't have my glasses on, by the way, so that's why I can't see half the things going on. This is gonna end badly. This is gonna end very badly, isn't it?
Drifting back just suddenly. Drifting back just suddenly. Drifting back just suddenly.
I don't like this.
Drifting back just suddenly. Drifting back just suddenly.
Suddenly drifting something.
Just suddenly. Drifting back.
That's really my favorite. I think you did.
Ashley. Backwards. Hurts. Inserting. Inserting. Darcy. Darcy.
Once again, another hidden element in this game. Ashley is repeated. as Billy the Clown's face begins to morph. This is a reference to Ashley Parks, the character and woman that was murdered and then put into the Billy the Clown animatronic, which we know from episode 2 of the mainline series, entitled The Relocate Project. We end up once again transporting to another location entitled the studio. This is where the video truly begins, as we are introduced to Cybertelly, as his minigame requires us to recolor in some frames of a TV show which a burglar had destroyed. Someone had broken into the studios and taken the film reel and drawn all over the film. Our job is to recolor a new separate set of the film and restore it. However, upon restoring the film, something weird occurs. Something begins to change, as once again, this game and ARG begins to show its true colors.
There is a catch. The machine is a tad defective.
There's the man I got it from is a bit, crazy.
So you must color the images quickly or the machine will shut down. Good luck, my friend.
Those who are familiar with the Walten Falls know that that was the canine facility, and more specifically, was Brian Stell's, as a white square begins to light up in the exact space where the TV screen is in this room. However, that means way more than you can possibly imagine. As once again, as this game shows that this has some secrets in here when we repeatedly interact with something, our character decides to do something. We begin to scroll over to this television screen and repeatedly press it. This is what triggers something truly terrifying, as once again, a number of unlisted videos appear in the captions, as we are introduced to the background and true ARG nature of having fun with Bon and the Showstoppers. Another YouTube link appears on screen, as once again, another hidden video is revealed to us, and this one involving the Blue Rabbit. What's on the TV? That's my guess. What's on the TV is about to pop up. Oh yes. Looks like Backrooms almost.
Hello there, ladies and
Oh
gentlemen,
my god, it looks so
boys and
good.
girls. My name is Bon, and
That is
I
Eva.
am the leader of the Showstoppers.
That's Eva.
Now, I have an interesting story to tell you all today. The other day, I was going for a walk when I came across a peculiar sight. It was a puppy, all by itself. Now, me, of course, being the good Samaritan that I am, I picked it up and... not important. Anywho,
Oh
I
my
picked
god,
up
this
the
is
dog,
nuts.
And I took it to...
This is a testing phase of the Bon animatronic robot. However, he tells us a story, almost reminiscent of Candy Cadet from FNAF Pizzeria Simulator, enticing us and wondering what he'd done to this dog. Is this dialogue that was just recorded for a story performance? Or was this something else, talking to us as a viewer? This video continues on, as once we go back to our mainline video, this video is chopped up into segments, and also showing us Brian Stell's an interaction with Bon himself, as you are about to witness the scariest moment in having fun with Bon and the Showstoppers.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Bon.
Yep, seems like the place. Sign matches.
not important.
Reset the breaker, and I will be right back to finish the diagnosis.
This is Mike. Today's date is April 5th. This is my first day. Check on some of the characters.
A staple of the creative process is finding an idea from someone else, building on it, and creating something new. Even the very act of creating was thought by something else, countless years before. A creation is an amalgamation of your experiences, combined with your inspirations. The knowledge gained from our experiences is used to reinvent ourselves. Artists' creative endeavors can be used to produce our own, reshape our lives. Even life is one, two, or however many things coming together to propagate the existence of a new being. To create is to embrace the fact that you utilized multiple things, all from different sources. To construct something new, you must take something to create in the same way that one must feed off something to survive.
We begin to enter a testing center, as we begin to see coordinates appear on screen. However, it asks for a username. As we enter Terry, it states that this is an invalid user. However, when we enter the name Michael, it shows us a square with the face of this person. It then invites us to enter another user, as we enter the name Ashley. As once again, that box appears on screen with the face of Ashley Parks. As lastly, we enter the name Rose. It tells us this is an invalid user, so we attempt Rosemary, but there is no result. So lastly, we enter the name Susan, as we begin to see a cartoon version of Banny appear in that same box, implying that Susan Woodings is of course in the Banny animatronic. This is where the video kicks off, as we begin to see this circle. We begin to see frame by frame drops, as once again a box appears on screen, as claws emerge from the corners, the claws of Bon, as Susan sits in the corner, starving, suffocating within the Banny animatronic suit. Then, see by far the best scene in the series, as a stare reveals, as Susan Woodings is staring into your soul as a viewer, as a paste bin link appears on screen.
4 years ago, I was a student at Michigan University of Engineering. However, I lived in Brighton. I couldn't afford to stay on campus, so I had to commute early via bus, as I didn't own a car at the time. Every morning, I'd sit at the bus stop, and I would come across a variety of people. Some unassuming, some odd, but I'd rarely interact with them, aside from the occasional wave or nod, so as to not be rude. One day, however, I was different. I was sketching out something in my notebook for one of my classes. The streetlights flickering behind me were the only way for me to see what I was doing, moving my head so my shadow wouldn't cover the page. A woman came by and sat next to me. She was very tall and seemingly in her mid-30s, had blue eyes with long brown hair draping over her elbows, and was wearing a green shirt and grey pants. I didn't pay much mind to her, as I was focused on what I was writing down, struggling to figure out which part was needed for the sketch, but she knew what I was missing and told me. She seemed interested in what I was writing, and as I asked her name, she briefly paused, as if she'd forgotten her own name, but told me her name was Annie. She spoke with an accent, somewhat British, maybe Irish. It's difficult for me to recall. I'm not the best with accents. She told me she was an engineer as well, but she actually got her degree from We talked about engineering for a couple of minutes, and her experience on campus, but when I asked where she worked, the conversation ended abruptly. Her face became pale. She looked as if she was about to burst into tears, but refrained, as if she was scared to. She kept staring at me for minutes on end. I tried to ask her if she was okay, but she didn't respond. Minutes continued to pass, and if it wasn't speaking to a person, but a corpse. Eventually I saw the bus's headlights glowing in my field of view, lighting up the road. I turned to see it pull up in front of me, and I looked back at her. She quickly stood up, still in the same expression. I got up and entered the bus. When I sat down, I looked out the window beside me to avoid eye contact with her when she would get on. But when I turned my head, she was sitting down next to me, eyes piercing my own in an impenetrable stare. She looked like she wasn't breathing. She wasn't moving. She was just staring at me. The more she looked at me, the more dead she looked. Her eyes got darker and darker. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I couldn't move my body. I couldn't feel. It felt like I was trapped inside my body, like it was a vehicle, a shell, and all I could do was stare back at her. Eventually, I was able to move my eyes. I blinked my eyes once, and Annie was gone, and I was on campus, and people were getting off, so I followed. I tried to continue with my day, but I couldn't get her off my mind. A few minutes into the lecture, I started to feel pain. It felt like something was grabbing at my neck, and it was hard to breathe. My stomach began to feel horrible, like something was boiling from the inside. I felt violently nauseous, and I rushed to the bathroom. But as I ran, the pain hit my legs too, like I was being stabbed and crushed. The pain had taken over my mind, and I couldn't think in words anymore, only in actions. It felt as if I didn't get to the bathroom, I would die. When I got there, I began violently vomiting, even after my stomach had emptied itself. It kept going. I left campus and took the bus home. I opened the door, collapsed onto my couch, not even changing out of my clothes. When I awoke, it was as if nothing had happened. It was as if nothing had occurred the previous day. I was completely fine. The only problem was that I was starving.
What occurs next is easily the best scene in the entire video, as we see a testing phase from the Bond animatronic. However, this one's different. Something different happens here, as the main focus on screen is not Bond, it's Banny.
Take the guys with the master class. Now they are cool. They really got something. I mean, if I can communicate with people like I do, like all artists do, we can stop.
We are then transported once again to Wonderland. We end up seeing this white, flooded liminal space, as eventually it comes into frame, as we see a figure blurrily appearing and walking towards the camera, and suddenly coming into focus. We see 3 strings like a marionette, blades of grass that seem endless as a woman calls out into the mist. This is Susan Woodings. This is Susan's experience in Wonderland and her interaction with Bon. This scene is easily one of the most interesting scenes in the entire series, as we see a different interpretation of Spirit Bon, speaking through tones, a text-to-speech voice that seems like it's taking individual words from songs, as we see how Bon manipulates Susan, repeatedly calls out to her, trying to lure her in and make her feel like she is completely weak and completely powerless. This scene's cinematography is easily the most interesting take in the entire series, as it takes what's already given to us in episode 4 of Cyberfun Tech and takes its own spin on it. As once again, we see how Bon's eyes in the sky symbolize how he has a hook and look at everyone in this universe. He has his eyes on us all, and it's just a matter of time before he takes action.
What did you do to me?
You use your hands to create my hands.
And for that, I must thank you.
Yeah. I do not have a body. I do not have hands. I only have myself, my boss. Had I not believed it would be in a similar situation to mine, I will help you. Right now, as we are communicating, your body will be bonded to its vessel.
You understood?
By many lie down on its face.
Got it.
It now lies down. Head resting white wall, body now blanketed in shadow. Where is my reality? Where is...
We then go back to the very beginning of the video, when our in-universe character who sources these tapes and CDs was talking about a dream about walking in snow. We get this shot of a white circle in the background, symbolizing a window to Wonderland, as we get a conversation between Charles and Susan, voiced by the actual voice actors of Kyle DeNegris, of Kyle and Coraline Heck. And here we are, as we hear how Charles describes how Susan describes that she had this same dream about walking through snow, as Charles tells her that sometimes these dreams can actually exist in their own reality, as to us they are dreams, but to others they are reality. To themselves they are their own reality. They actually coexist. This scene is the best. This scene of dialogue is so particularly written and so cleverly written that really puts a different spin on the Walten Files universe as a whole. However, the question stands, Will our character who's in universe experiencing this same dream, will he have the same demise? As we know from the Walten Files universe, if Susan had this dream of Wonderland, and look what happened to her, what is going to happen to our in-universe character who's providing us with these CDs, providing us with this material to view this story as a different medium than others? What is going to happen to them?
The dream that Susan was talking about, that was my dream. The snow, I was there, and that voice, that's what I heard too. They're trying to speak to me. They're in my dreams, showing me what happened. I can't escape them, even when I turn off the computer. I don't want this. I don't want any of this. I want them to leave me alone. I never should have looked into this, but I feel like I have to. I need to. Goodbye.